Hello everyone, this is Fed from Puromac, and today I'm going to replace the batteries, the lithium ion batteries from my MacBook Pro late 2013 using this kit from iFixIt. All right, let's get going. A number of people asked me why I picked an iFixIt kit rather than using or buying something on Amazon. It's mainly because I trust iFixIt over an anonymous brand that might be on Amazon. Also, I feel like they do a lot for the DIY community, and I wanted to support them. And also, their kit comes with a few more things than some of the other kits. So let's walk through that. It comes with some tools. Now, I happen to have many of these tools already, but that's okay. An electrostatically safe set of tweezers, some plastic tools, a spudger, a lifter, a syringe. So this screwdriver actually comes with a few different tips for the different size screws that you'll encounter in the MacBook Pro case. But also, it comes with this. It's called an adhesive remover, and the fact that this is included in the kit is great because the hardest part of removing the batteries from a MacBook Pro like this is getting the batteries out of the case without damaging the batteries, causing a fire, for example, or damaging the case itself or the components within the case. Oh, the other reason why I decided to go with iFixIt is because they say that they provide OEM parts, or original equipment manufacturer parts. So what that means is these are supposed to be the same type of batteries made by the same manufacturers that made the batteries for the original MacBook Pros. Here's my MacBook Pro. I have this nice vinyl thing on it, and I don't know if you can tell, but see how my MacBook Pro rocks back and forth? This was one of the signs that I needed to replace the batteries inside of my MacBook Pro. It's because it's hard to tell, but this surface is no longer flat. It's curved now because the batteries inside have swelled. Also, another indicator that my batteries had swelled, and this is actually what finally got me to decide I needed to change the batteries, or at least to investigate the idea of changing the batteries, is that the trackpad almost doesn't click anymore. The trackpads on these older model MacBook Pros are supposed to click, and you can tell it doesn't click. In fact, this side is almost raised above the edge where the trackpad sits. One other thing I wanted to point out is that the steps on the iFixIt website are very, very complete, and they go through pains so that you avoid damaging any of the internal components of your MacBook Pro. That said, I'm not going to follow those steps. Those steps, in my opinion, are overly complicated, and they're so complicated and they require you to remove so many items from inside that I think there's a higher risk of you doing damage when you put your MacBook Pro back together again than if you simply tried another technique for safely removing the internal batteries inside of the MacBook Pro. Of the 54 steps on the iFixIt website, we're going to do steps 1 through 4 and then step 34. All right. Let's flip it over. The first step is to remove all the screws that are on the bottom of the MacBook Pro. these two screws are actually slightly different than the other screws on the periphery of the case, so you want to keep these separate. And you can see how swollen the batteries are. They should not look like that. First thing you have to do is you have to carefully unhook the batteries from the case right over here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to carefully pull this sticker off. And you see there's a connector here. This is the connector that we're going to unclip. Again, very carefully. You don't want to damage any of the internal components or the connectors inside of your MacBook Pro. There we go. So I want to just carefully pry it up. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now that is lifted off. So now we have to remove these screws here. These two are a Torx T5 bit that you have to use in order to unscrew these. These batteries are held down with glue. In the iFixIt manual, it has this very complicated process of unscrewing all these things, the fans, all the different parts, to make sure that you don't happen to get any of the adhesive remover on the sensitive parts. I'm going to do something different. I think it's more dangerous to try to remove all these different parts than this other technique I'm going to show you, which is using a nylon thread. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prop up this base a bit. Here I have another set of screwdrivers. So I'm just going to use this as a prop. There we go. So now I have this in place so that the MacBook Pro is at an angle, and any adhesive remover that I add to the MacBook Pro will flow in this direction towards the bottom of the case, as opposed to going in the direction of fans or internal components. Here's the iFixIt adhesive remover, and we're going to apply this a little bit at a time, a few milliliters of liquid at a time, underneath various parts of the battery where the adhesive is that's holding all these batteries in place. Okay, so now we're going to wait about 5 or 10 minutes. So rather than use the steps that are in the iFixIt, on the iFixIt website, I'm going to use this nylon string, and I'm going to put it underneath the batteries and then pull back and forth underneath the batteries to basically saw through or to remove the adhesive backing, which hopefully should be softened or dissolved by the iFixIt adhesive remover. One tip is do not use metal anywhere around the battery. So always make sure that you use a plastic tool like this. Another reason why I got the iFixIt kit was because they give you these very handy plastic tools. I'm going to start with this one since it seems like it's already kind of coming out. Start with an easy one. Oops. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to saw back and forth very carefully. Wow. Okay, that one was pretty easy. Good. Now I'll move on to another one. It's easier to start with the two end batteries on the sides. Okay. What you don't want to do is just yank on these batteries and bend them. That could be extremely dangerous. It can lead to a fire, to an explosion. You do not want to do that. These might be a little bit harder. I think I got it. Yep, there we go. Now the whole battery comes out. Yep. There we go. There's the battery now out of the case. So you can really see how swelled, how inflated all the batteries are. This is not a good situation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these sticky pieces and prepare the case for the new battery. These plastic cards that you get from iFixIt are also really handy for removing these adhesive stickers. So you see that there's a lot of residue all over here. I'm going to clean that off before applying the battery or installing the battery. Now we just want to make sure that everything fits in place and that it's looking good. Okay, so now I have the battery pack here. I'm going to remove this top layer of glue, of tape. So this slides underneath and it goes like that. And we'll want to place it kind of like right there. I'm going to remove the backing on the batteries and just kind of make sure that I have it centered so that when I put this in place, I can clamp it down and everything fits properly. Make sure it's centered, and then just let it fall down, I think. I have to push it down a little bit. It seems like it's a little bit tight, but I can push it down a little bit and it seems to fit fine. And now I put in the power connector. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to replace this piece, which is just a piece of tape. It goes right here. Like that. Okay, I think now I could just put the lid back on. Looks like that'll be fine. And here's the last screw. Let's see, does it lay flat? Yeah, it lays much flatter than it did before. It's not bobbing back and forth. And now let's open it up. And, hear that? The trackpad is now clicking again. All right, that's it. That was the replacement of the battery, and I'm going to turn it on anyway, just to see what happens. There it goes. All right, thanks for watching this with me. Hope it was helpful.